bet you didn't expect to see me this early, did you? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel and welcome to an early morning update because we have a lot to talk about, and I guess late news is no news. So we have a few things to cover that came out last night, including another ban for Celtic supporters, this time at Hampden, and of course, Jose Mourinho. Because Jose Mourinho is just news any time of year. He's box office. So bear with me. Let's have a wee morning gab. If you haven't already, please make sure to hit like and subscribe. It would be much appreciated. It's nice to be with you all so early on this beautiful Thursday morning. I don't know if it's a beautiful Thursday morning. I'm recording this on Wednesday evening. So it might be beautiful. It might be minging. So I'm not a fortune teller, so Celtic face another supporter ban, this time at Hampden Park, following the use of flares/pyrotechnics across both League Cup games at Hampden this season. The League Cup semi-final and final, Celtic fans, of course, in the stadium used flares. In fact, I think it delayed kick-off on maybe both occasions, if my mind serves me right, and now we face the consequences, albeit very minimal consequences. In fact, it doesn't feel too heavy at all compared to what we could face with a complete ban of away supporters in European football. This one doesn't compare quite to that. However, the headlines last night said that Celtic and Rangers have both had ticket allocations cut as a punishment for pyrotechnic use. The SPFL have taken action against the Glasgow clubs and Motherwell over Hampden rule breaches. Celtic and Rangers have both had their allocations cut for the next League Cup games at Hampden as the SPFL took action over the use of pyrotechnics. Along with Motherwell, they were called to account by the league body after the semi-finals of this season's Premier Cup, where there was disruption by fans using flares and smoke bombs, and even after a warning was issued following those games, there was a further use of pyrotechnics at the showpiece final in December. So the SPFL launched disciplinary proceedings against all three clubs and has now reported back on the findings of an independent panel. So of course, Celtic given a warning after the semi-final not to do it again. Fans then done it again in the final, so each of the three clubs has been punished with a reduction of their ticket allocation by 500 seats for their next game at Hampden in the League Cup. So let me just spell this out loudly for you in case you do not understand. This is not for the next game at Hampden. Should we make the Scottish Cup semi-final? Should we make the Scottish Cup semi-final, there will not be a cut of 500 tickets. Should we make the Scottish Cup final, there shouldn't be a cut of 500 tickets. This is a decision by the SPFL, not the SFA, which means it only affects the League Cup and the league technically, but in this situation it's a 500 cut at Hampden. This will come into effect should Celtic make the semi-finals of the League Cup next season. So there is a 500 ticket reduction of what we normally would get a part of our allocation, and Celtic and Rangers have also been given an additional suspended punishment and will see their allocation cut by 800 tickets if there is a repeat of the rule breach at any time during the League or League Cup within the next 2 years. So essentially, if Celtic fans decide to use flares or pyrotechnics anytime over the next 2 years in a league game or a League Cup game, well, we will see our allocation cut by nearly 1,000 tickets, which I guess on paper does not sound like a huge deal, but when you consider how difficult it is nowadays to get tickets at Hampden, every ticket sort of counts. And I don't mean to be suddenly jumping sides and backing up the SPFL here or anything. No, that's not what I'm doing. But it's true. I mean, I remember last year I didn't get a ticket for the Scottish Cup final because there was 10,000 tickets given to corporate or something like that. And for this year's League Cup final, I was lucky and blessed to get a League Cup final ticket in the ballot, but Kieran, my best mate who goes to every game with me, wasn't, and basically every friend that I know that has a season ticket didn't get one either, because once again, corporate gets so many tickets. So when you start eating away 500, maybe 800 tickets into the allocation, you're going to start getting problems. And let me tell you right now, that allocation cut isn't going to be into corporate tickets. No, it's going to be into general sale. It's going to be into the fans who are season ticket holders without corporate or hospitality privileges. That's who will feel the brunt of it, sadly. So maybe it is time to kind of watch what we're doing in these stadiums. But at the same time, I do caveat that if the SFA, the SPFL, or whoever is governing these games put something forward or a procedure in place to have a safe use of pyrotechnics or flares at the stadiums, we wouldn't be in this conversation. I look at Aberdeen, who have managed to bring it into Pittodrie in a safe and controlled manner. It cannot be that difficult to have that at the National Stadium. So, yeah, there's a lot to go on about this conversation, but Celtic have officially spoke about it as well. So Celtic, in their statement tonight, did condemn those using pyrotechnics and flares at football matches, saying that we do note the SPFL judgment relating to the use of pyrotechnic at matches, and clearly it is hugely disappointing that our wider support will be negatively affected at future SPFL League Cup matches at Hampden following the actions of a small minority. It is also well known that we currently face a UEFA suspended sentence as a result of the previous use of pyrotechnics, most recently against Borussia Dortmund, by a small minority of supporters, something which could potentially have a negative and damaging impact on the team and Celtic supporters wishing to attend an away match in UEFA competition to support the team. The club have been very clear that the use of pyrotechnics and fireworks at matches is illegal and presents risks to supporter safety and to the club under applicable regulations. The fact that the use of pyrotechnics by a small minority is now adversely affecting the attendance of our supporters at matches should act as a very serious wake-up call to those involved. So, yeah, we're back to square one with all of this. It's a conversation we've had to have so many times this year, but it is getting to the point now where Celtic supporters, and as Celtic have already said in their statement, the wider Celtic support are being affected by the actions of the minority. So yeah, as the club have said, very serious wake-up call now for supporters not to cost fellow supporters the chance to follow their team not only across Europe now, but just down the road at Hampden Park. We have 2 suspended sentences, one which could mean the total banning of away supporters in Europe for a match, and now the chance of 800 tickets being lost, all because of a minority of supporters. Now, I do want to caveat all that by saying this isn't the type of video where in the comments section you should be pointing fingers, that you should be blaming certain people or groups. This has happened before, and I was very vocal about this on my last video regarding this matter. After the Aston Villa game, there was images going round of a flare or whatnot in the away end at Villa Park, and people were pointing to certain individuals, zooming into them in photos and trying to grasp them in and blaming certain fan groups, when number one, the people in the photos were not the right people, and number two, fan groups weren't even involved. So it's not the time to point fingers. Don't try and blame a certain person and or group. At the end of the day, you can never know who truly is to blame sometimes. Sometimes you do, fair enough, but sometimes you don't. Now is just the time to come together and probably accept that it should be put in the back burner. That's a funny pun, isn't it? Pyros and back burner, I didn't mean that. But it is probably time to put it in the past for the time being. You know, let these sentences and potential suspensions calm down. Allow supporters to go to the game without, the threat of missing out on the next game. It's probably time that we do acknowledge that, because we are going to cost supporters out of games, and when you're affecting the wider Celtic support, people of young ages, of old ages, everybody, it's disappointing, it's unfair. So a big one today from the SPFL, one that I wasn't expecting. So just to reiterate before we finish up, this does not affect Celtic's potential trips to Hampden this season should we make it to the semi-final and final of the Scottish Cup. It will be next year in the League Cup. Brendan Rodgers has came out and, of course, criticised the use of pyrotechnics and condemned it. The club have now came out and condemned it on numerous occasions. All eyes will be on Celtic and their supporters over the next couple of games and trips to Hampden. Of course, Rangers as well when they next get there. It's a punishment that will need to be watched. Jose Mourinho, one of my absolute favourites in the history of football, across any form of football character or personality, be it manager, player, pundit. I love Jose, and I wasn't old enough to remember Seville. I know some people haven't forgave him, but he's always been somebody that I have adored and admired through my time being a football fan. Today, or should I say yesterday, he had his press conference ahead of the game against Rangers in the Europa League as manager of Fenerbahce, where he said he does not rule out managing Celtic in the future. He's someone who, of course, has been linked with the Celtic job the last few times it's opened up, before Rodgers came back, before Ange Postecoglou came in, and is someone who now has threw his hat in the ring to potentially be the next boss. This is what Mourinho had to say in the press conference yesterday, where he said, not at the moment because I have a job, but it's a job that motivates me and demands loyalty, so why not in the future? People can say the Scottish League is a league of two teams, but it's a league of passion, and passion in football is everything. To play in empty stadiums and competitions where there is not a fire or passion does not make any sense. Celtic and Rangers are two big clubs with incredible history, also in Europe. I have a lot of respect. They are big clubs with fan bases and expectations. So Jose Mourinho, one of the greatest to ever do it, in my opinion, one of the top 5 or at least top 10 greatest managers of all time, saying that he wouldn't rule out managing Celtic nor Rangers in the future. All I can say is, when Brendan goes, I know who I want. I know his stock has dipped dramatically in recent years. He's maybe not the Jose Mourinho that he once was. He's maybe not the special one anymore, but you know, you never know. You never know. I don't want Rodgers to leave anytime soon. I'm having a laugh and a joke when I say I want him to be the next manager a moment ago, but you know, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. You never know in football. Brendan Rodgers could be gone tomorrow, for all we know. Touch wood, he's not. But I would love to see Jose managing Celtic. I think it would be box office. I think it'd be a great laugh when it comes to the derbies. Yeah, I know that your dad might have no forgave him for what happened in Seville, but trust me, I have. Jose was also full of praise for Brendan Rodgers and Celtic in general at the press conference yesterday, which is nice to see. He called Brendan a fantastic coach, saying that Celtic are lucky to have him. And talking about Celtic, he said he has the utmost respect for both of the big clubs and the big supporting families from the football capital that is Glasgow. Celtic and Rangers are two big clubs with incredible history, also in Europe. I have a lot of respect. Part of my formation was even in Scotland. I have so many Scottish friends from both colours, the green and the blue. I know Glasgow is going to be difficult, but I'm very, very happy to play against a Scottish team. So nice to hear him call Brendan a fantastic manager. Of course, they've locked horns in the past in the English Premier League back in the day, and I'm sure they've had many a conversation, considering I think they worked briefly together at Chelsea as well. So yeah, you know, I love seeing Josie talk about Celtic. Someone, as I said, who I've always admired, and yeah, who knows? Maybe we'll face him again someday soon. Maybe there's a European fixture down the road where we can maybe get a wee bit of revenge for what happened that day in 2003. Right, that does it for today. If you've enjoyed, make sure to hit like and subscribe. It would be much appreciated. But until the podcast goes live tomorrow, that should be me, unless something significant happens over the next few hours. So like and subscribe, take care of yourself, and I'll see you all next time.